This video is brought to you in part by my sponsors. Card Conduit is the easiest way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether your collection is sorted or not, there's an option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% higher than just using one buy list, you can rest assured you get the best bang for your buck. And you can get further savings of 10% on your service fees by using my affiliate link down below or the promo code MTGMUDSTA. 401 Games is Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. With a huge selection of cards and sealed product, first-time buyers can save 5% off their first order by using the code MTGMUDSTA, and returning shoppers can also use the code GOBLINS5 to save 5% on orders of singles. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. You can use the promo code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order. Today's patron shoutout goes to Wes Allen. Thanks Wes for supporting me through Patreon. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game is a little different for two reasons. The first is when we started recording this, I forgot to change the commanders, so although you're going to see one thing, by turn 4 it switches to the actual commander, so sorry about that. The second part is that this is a Jesper Eising only game. That means all of the players in this game have built a deck using only a legendary creature that Jesper has painted. And instead of doing opening hands, I decided to have each player introduce themselves and the deck they're playing. So let's get into that.
My name is Seb. Today I will play Varis, Silvery Moon Ranger. My goal is to flash creature during the turn of my opponent, to advance to the dungeon, and build a big board.
Hi everyone, my name is Marie. Today I'll be playing the Goose Mother, and you're about to see just how much work goes behind Andrew's edits, as I get very confused about my own deck. The goal is to make a lot of food tokens and take advantage of those, and hopefully destroy my opponents with big X spells.
So today, my name is Felix. So today I'll be playing Troyan Gutsy Explorer. So my goal is to play Ram spells and big potatoes to kill my opponent with it.
Hi, my name is Maxime. Today I will play Sek'Kuar Deadkeeper. My goal is to ping my opponent and gain value by sacrificing a lot of little creatures. And if you want to see all the deck lists, you can go on Moxfield.
Seb wins a die roll and starts us off. They draw, play a forest, and pass. Marie's got a Bark Channel Pathway and casts Soul Ring. Felix draws and plays an island. Maxim has a Windswept Heath, cracking it and losing 1 to find a land. Seb draws, plays a forest, and passes. Marie's got an island for turn, and she pays 2 for 3 visits. She goes to find a forest, and then casts an elusive otter, passing after that. Felix draws, plays a flooded grove, and casts a Simic Signet. Max's turn has him drawing, playing a swamp, and casts Vren, Executioner Thane, passing after that. Seb's got a forest return, and casts Varis, and passes to Marie. Marie's turn has her playing a Rogue's Passage, and then casting the Goose Mother, putting 4 into the X. She makes 2 food tokens, and then goes to combat. She pokes Felix for 1 with the otter, and passes. Felix draws, plays a forest, and casts Troyan, passing to Max. Maxim's turn has him playing an untapped Overgrown Tomb, losing 2, and then pays 3 for a Farhaven Elf. He goes to find a mountain, and passes. Seb draws, and plays a forest. They then cast Tusky, which allows them to venture into the Lost Mine of Phandelver, scrying 1, and they then move to combat. They swing Varis at Felix for 2, which he takes. This also lets Seb draw a card from Tusky, and they pass turn. Marie draws and plays a Yavimaya, and then casts Green Sun Zenith, putting 3 into the X. She finds Jaheira and puts it into play, and shuffles the Green Sun Zenith into her library. She then casts a Skullspore Nexus, and I correct the overlay to display the proper commanders. Going to combat, Marie uses the Skullspore Nexus to double the Goose Mother's powers, and then sends it at Maxim and the otter at Felix. Marie sacrifices a food token as she's attacking to draw a card with the goose, and Max and Felix then take their hits. Marie then passes after that. Felix draws and plays an island, and he then casts Kogla. As he comes in, he fights the Goose Mother, and Marie gets to make a 5/5 dinosaur as the Goose Mother dies. Felix then passes turn. Max draws and casts a Culling Ritual, destroying all permanents that cost 2 or less. This nets him a total of 6 green mana, and uses 4 of it for the Guardian project. He then pays 1 for Ignoble Hierarch, drawing a card as it enters. He then plays a Verdant Catacombs, sacrificing it and losing 1 to find Smoldering Marsh. Seb draws and goes straight to combat. They swing both creatures at Maxim, with Maxim chumping Varis with a Farhaven Elf, but still taking 1 from Toski. This has Seb drawing a card. They then play a Forest in their second main phase and cast Howling Moon. After that, Seb passes. Marie's turn has her casting a Rhystic Study, and then going to combat. She activates the Skullspore Nexus to double Jaheira's power, and sends her at Maxim for 4. He takes the hit, and Marie passes. Felix draws and plays an island, and then casts Rishkar's Expertise. He gets to draw 7 cards, and puts into play a pretty small Birds of Paradise. Going to combat, Felix segs Kogla at Marie, and destroys the Skullspore Nexus with the attack trigger. Marie then chumps with her Dinosaur token, and Felix then passes turn. Max draws and plays Command the Dreadhorde in his main phase. He gets back Farhaven Elf, Vran, Llanowar Elves, and the Elusive Otter, taking 7, and drawing 4 cards from the Guardian Project. He then plays a Spire Garden, and then casts a Caustic Caterpillar. This has Seb making a Wolf token, and Max draws again from the Guardian Project, and then passes turn. During his end step, Seb flashes out an Ambush Viper, and makes a Goblin token as they continue through the Lost Mine. Seb draws and goes to combat, giving their Wolf token +2/+2 from Howling Moon. Seb then swings the Goblin token at Marie, Toski at Felix, and a Wolf token at Max. Max blocks the Elusive Otter, and no one else blocks, and with the creature dying, Vran drains the table for 2. Seb also gets to draw 2 cards from Toski, and in their second main phase, casts a Rampant Growth to find a forest. Marie draws and plays a forest, and then casts Nature's Lore. She gets another forest off of it, and then casts an Arcane Signet, giving Seb another Wolf token. She continues by casting Eleanor Gardener, which makes a food token as she enters, and Marie then passes turn. Felix draws, plays a forest for turn, and casts an Apex Altasaur. As it comes in, he fights Vran, the Farhaven Elf, a Wolf token, the Ignoble Hierarch, and Seb's Goblin. Going to combat, Felix then swings Kogla at Seb, destroying their Howling Moon. Seb then moves to block with the Ambush Viper to take out Kogla, but the enchantment still gets destroyed, and with nothing else, Felix passes. Max's turn has him drawing and playing a forest, and then casting Bloodghast, paying the 1 for Rhystic Study. He follows it up with a Springbloom Druid, sacrificing a forest to go and find 2 more basics. Max then passes, and during the end step, Seb casts a Sandstalker Moloch on the end step to venture, and gets to put a +1/+1 counter onto Toski, and reveals Nissa, who shakes the world off the top 4. Seb's turn has them playing a forest, and they then cast Nissa, drawing a card off finishing the dungeon, which makes Seb a Wolf token as well. They then uptick Nissa and animate a land, and then follow up by casting Nature's Lore to go and find a forest. Moving to combat, Seb sings Toski at Max for 2, but Max blocks with a Springbloom Druid. With nothing else, Seb passes. Marie draws and casts a Doubling Season, and then plays a Bristleblood Farmer, which makes 4 food tokens instead of 2. She then taps her food thanks to Jaheira for green to help cast a Night of Sweet's Revenge, making another food token, and then casts Trail of Crumbs, making another one. She follows up by casting an Arcbound Ravager, and then plays Instill Energy on the Bristleblood Farmer. Going to combat, she swings the Bristleblood Farmer at Seb, and Marie sacrifices a food token to mill 3, and gets to keep a Tireless Provisioner to her hand. Seb in response casts a Slippery Bogbonder, and puts a Hexproof counter onto Varis, plus ventures, this time into the Tomb of Annihilation. Seb then double blocks with their Sandstalker and Goblin token on the Farmer. Everything then trades, but Seb still takes 2 trample damage. Marie then moves to her end step, with Eleanor's ability triggering and going to find her a basic. Felix draws and plays a Portal to Phyrexia. Max responds to this on the stack by casting Bitter Triumph, discarding a Phyrexian Arena, and destroying the Apex Altasaur. The portal then enters, with each of Felix's opponents sacrificing 3 creatures. With nothing else, Felix passes. Max draws and plays a Swamp, which brings Bloodghast back in display and draws him a card from the Guardian Project. He then casts Sek'Kuar, and he follows it up with a Sek'Kuar Tribe Elder, passing to Seb. Seb draws and plays a High Elf Triumph, naming green as it comes in. They then uptick Nissa. They follow up by casting Vivian, Champion of the Wilds, down-ticking the Walker to look at their top 3, and exiling a card. Going to combat, Seb then swings the Forests and Varis at Marie, and Tusky goes at Felix. Neither of them block, and Seb draws 4. And in their second main phase, they play a Forest, and then cast a Dungeon map, passing to Marie. Marie's turn has her drawing and playing the Tireless Provisioner we saw earlier, and she then plays an island for turn, making a food token. She then casts the Ozolith, and once it's out, recasts the Goose Mother, putting 13 into the X. This comes in with 26 +1/+1 counters, and makes 12 food tokens. Marie then continues her turn by playing a Krark Clan Ironworks, and follows up with Welcome to Sweet Tooth, making 2 human tokens and 2 more food tokens, thanks to Doubling Season, doubling pretty much everything this turn, and with what felt like a huge turn, she passes to Felix. Felix's upkeep has the Portal to Phyrexia triggering, and he gets back Kogla, which as it comes in, fights the Tireless Provisioner. He then draws a card, and he casts Freed from the Real on Troyan. He then activates it to untap Troyan a few times, and makes 8 mana, using the mana to cast Zendikar Resurgent. He then passes, and during his end step, Maxim sacrifices Sek'Kuar Tribe Elder, going to find a forest, but also making a 3/1 token thanks to his commander. Max draws and casts Beseech the Mirror, sacrificing the Graveborn, going to find Assassin's Trophy, and getting to cast it for free, targeting the Goose Mother. Marie's ready though, using Swan Song to save her commander, and gives Max a bird instead. Maxim then moves to cast a Wood Elves, paying the 1 for Rhystic Study, and he gets a Stomping Ground, which comes in tapped. He then plays a Command Tower for turn, and he passes turn. During the end step, Seb makes a deal with Marie to not get attacked, and after she agrees, they cast a Guardian Augmentor, making each player discard a card or take 2 as they venture further into Tomb of Annihilation. Seb draws and plays a Forest. They then downtick Vivian again, looking at their top 3 and exiling 1. They then activate the dungeon map to venture again, with Marie sacrificing a food token, Max sacrificing Bloodghast and getting a 3/1, and Felix taking 2 from the dungeon. Seb then upticks Nissa, and they follow up with Temur Sabertooth, finishing the Tomb of Annihilation. This makes them an Atropal and a Wolf token, and they then go to combat. Seb swings Tusky at Max, who chumps with the Wood Elves, making another 3/1 token as it dies, and with nothing else, Seb passes. Marie draws and gets the last chapter of Welcome to Sweet Tooth, which she puts onto a human token for 48 +1/+1 counters. She then casts a Clan Crafter, and then a Reliquary Tower, and then plays a Branching Evolution. She sacrifices a food token to the Krark Clan Ironworks to pay for the Clan Crafter, and sacrifices another food token to draw a card and put 2 +1/+1 counters onto the Goose Mother. She continues by playing a Fanatic of Ronus, and then activating the Clan Crafter again. She then casts a Benevolent Hydra, which is actually a double-double thanks to the Branching Evolution and Doubling Season working together. Marie then makes the Goose Mother unblockable with Rogue's Passage, and she goes to combat. She swings the Goose at Max, and the 49/49 human at Felix. On attack, Marie sacrifices a food token to draw from the Goose Mother, and Felix moves to chump with the Birds of Paradise, while Max just straight up dies. After combat, Marie then plays Adrix and Nev, and passes to Felix. Felix gets back his Apex Altasaur with a Portal to Phyrexia, and uses it to fight the Fanatic of Ronus, the smaller human token, and Adrix and Nev, paying for their ward cost. He then draws, and uses Freed from the Real to float 10 mana with Troyan, and uses that mana to cast Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. This allows Felix to draw 4 on the on-cast trigger, and he then plays a Forest for turn, making another 8 mana with Troyan to help cast Galta, Stampede Tyrant, paying the 1 for Rhystic Study. This allows him to put to field AC, Nizal, the Tarask, off of Galta's Enter the Battlefield trigger. He then plays an island as his second land for turn, drawing from the AC trigger. Felix continues by casting a Nature's Lore, going to find a forest, which draws him another card as it comes in. He then uses Troyan to make 4 mana, which he uses to help cast Emoti. He then cascades into a Beast Whisperer, and once both creatures resolve, moves to combat. Felix swings Kogla at Marie, destroying the Doubling Season, and Marie blocks with her Benevolent Hydra to kill it. Felix then passes, and during his end step, Seb bounces the Guardian Augmenter with Temur Sabertooth, and then recasts it again to Venture. Seb chooses the Tomb of Annihilation again, and deals 1 to all of their opponents, and they move to their turn. Seb draws and plays a forest for turn. They then float 2 mana, and uptick Nissa to untap a forest. Seb then plays a Great Oak Guardian to give their team +2/+2 and venture even deeper, with everyone discarding a card to the tomb. Seb then floats 8 off their forests that are creatures in response to the untap trigger, and then untaps them as well. Seb then uses that floating mana to make 4 wolf tokens with a Wolfbriar Elemental, and follows up by casting a Craterhoof Behemoth, giving their team +16/+16 and trample. After doing the combat math, Felix sees that he's dead to Seb, and with only 1 blocker, Marie's dead as well, and Seb is able to take the game through combat. Game review time. This was a fun one. I think I should do thematic games more often. I really enjoyed the Magali Villeneuve deck, and Jesper's one were pretty fun too. I think all the decks got to do what they wanted to do, or at least showcase kind of what they're meant to do, with the only person who lost early on and really didn't get to showcase too much being Maxim, playing the Sek'Kuar deck. We saw a little bit of his interactions with like Sek'Kuar Tribe Elder when his commander was out, and the Bloodcast kind of being a synergistic card where he could sacrifice it and bring it back and still get tokens and value. But he's got a bit of a reputation at the table as being the main threat for most of the play, and it unfortunately affects future games. Marie's Goose Mother deck, considering how she exploded off the beginning, I thought she was going to be out of it because she just didn't have anything else to do. But she built up, and all those doublers were just crazy, crazy, crazy. That human token had 48 +1/+1 counters, which is just absolutely wild and super cool to see. And I thought the Doubling Season being the Goose Mother art was just like thematically gorgeous. Felix's Troyan deck did what he set out to do, which is ramp and then cast big creatures. Although I think the most creatures that he had out was a result of that Galta. That Galta was wild. I know when the spoilers came out, people were going crazy for it. My playgroups really didn't see any of it, and this is probably, I think, the first or second time that I've seen it cast, and it's crazy good. Seb does this thing where they fly under the radar. They build strong decks. Often, actually, they have another dungeon deck, which is kind of interesting to think about. And then just kind of like get there in the end and have a really decent board state. I think there was a loop with the Great Oak Guardian and the Temur Sabertooth, since they were able to untap their forest lands, which would have basically meant, I think, infinite mana and infinite pumps either way. But the Craterhoof Behemoth was just a sweet mono-green finish like it always is. And it was a great game. If you'd like to see more thematic games, let me know down in the comments below. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.